Is my judge ready? Are my opponents ready? Is my partner ready?
Yeah.
Alright, then time to start my first one. Westboro negates the resolution that in the United States, collegiate student athletes should be classified as employees for the educational institution. Contention 1 is paying for it. Firstly, as Editorial 21 reports, only about 25 of the 1,100 NCAA member school athletic departments generate a profit. Therefore, it is simply unfeasible to pay athletes when schools themselves are already losing money. Colleges are left with two options, as Kaepernick 14 finds. Changes to how student athletes are paid could lead to some schools stuck with nowhere else to turn other than to raise other students' fees. Universities and colleges could also scale back their athletic programs to cut costs. However, we can look to the past to determine what will happen. Past precedents show that when schools face financial struggles, they cut programs. As OT21 finds, for the 300 teams in an analysis that were recently cut, 2018 to 19 federal data for each intercollegiate program indicates more than 5,400 athletes who are a member of those teams each year. The impact is cutting programs. Wood 22 further, by paying student athletes, other programs in the schools that don't bring in money will be erased. Even the bigger schools in the NCAA won't be able to pay every single player and keep up financially with other sports programs, resulting in them being cut off. Also, if a university starts paying student athletes, it could negatively affect other sports programs. There will not be enough funds to pay every single student athlete equally and to be able to keep every single sport. The smaller sports that do not generate enough revenue to sustain the program would definitely get cut. There wouldn't be as much opportunity for everyone if we paid our student athletes. As Lawrence 21 explains, colleges are now swimming in money. This would affect more than just the student athletes. The athletic department could possibly crumble, and the smaller sports would be no more. New Code 24 reports that the NCAA had warned that 95% of student athletes face extinction if colleges actually had to pay them as employees. Due to financial problems, we have seen colleges do it, and by paying athletes, this problem will be exemplified. With a change this catastrophic and drastic, colleges will struggle financially related to cuts in programs and eventually harming the athletes it aims to help. Contention 2 is amateurism. Currently, the status quo allows college sports to thrive. Colleges with lower revenues can compete against colleges with higher revenues, as the salaries are not key factors when athletes decide. However, as Spec 21 reports, if college athletes were to get paid, then large, well-funded schools such as those in the Power 5 would be best positions to acquire top talent and gain a competitive advantage. Furthermore, 12 finds if all the richest schools were to pay their players, their teams would be unstoppable. This would leave teams with a good salary cap in a bad position for the program. Moreover, assuming a free market system, the chasm between the haves and have-nots would widen even further. Universities best positioned to pay athletes top dollar would win bidding wars and recruiting battles against institutions with limited budgets. Athletic competition nationwide would suffer as a result, says Dudowski 23. Therefore, rich schools would benefit continuously, as Palmet 216 says, wins equal cash for many collegiate football teams. In fact, a single win during a football season could mean as much as a $3 million increase for some top schools. Less established football teams saw a monumentary increase due to invitations to postseason bowls. The impact of smaller schools shutting down. 4 and 23 finds that paying athletes would undermine collegiate sports and could ultimately lead to the collapse of sports programs across the United States. Recruiting would not exist anymore. This would lead to big schools becoming powerhouses, as many donors and recruits would only want to go to these schools because they would be paid significantly more money. As a result, the smaller Division II schools could simply disappear because they cannot compete with the amount of money that the bigger Division I schools have, says Lawrence 21. Judge, this is detrimental as these Division I schools only make up about 1/3 of the NCAA. This means that the other 2/3 may cease to exist. Furthermore, not all Division I schools will pay their athletes the same. Many public schools, even within this division, will not be able to compete with the larger private schools' money that gets billions of dollars in donations and tuitions. Chaos is what is ensured to happen by affirmative action, as this resolution, in practice, would have catastrophic consequences for the schools and the athletes. With a carefully crafted college sports program hanging in the balance, we strongly encourage a negative ballot. Thank you, Judge. You guys kept typing in the doc, which is messing me up.
Oh, I was adding sources, sorry.
Yeah.
I'll try to take stuff out before.
Westboro affirms the resolution in the United States collegiate student athletes should be classified as employees of their educational institution. Contention 1 is athlete exploitation. Currently, Bon Giovanni 20 reports a staggering 86% of college athletes come from families in poverty. Moreover, these low-income families, as Digest 20 claims, are more attracted to sports such as football and basketball, and these sports subsidize money-losing sports, which are often played by more affluent athletes. To quantify this, Digest 20 furthers, the average revenue for the football and basketball athletic departments stood at $125 million, up 60% from a decade earlier. The surge in proceeds from football and basketball more than offset a 71% decrease incurred by non-revenue generating sports. These sports are generating millions, and yet, as Merrick 21 reports, for every additional $1 that came into football and basketball, only 31 cents were reinvested in those sports. This system, as Mintz 24 finds, allow the rich to get richer while the poor stay stagnant with respect to attracting funds from external sources for their athletes. Indeed, Keter 20 that shifts resources from athletes that come from poor families to those from richer families. However, paying these athletes effectively changes the flow of money from the athletes, generating millions of dollars for the school straight into their paychecks rather than in the pockets of others. As Black finds, the clearest solution to exploitation of college athletes is to allow each athlete to make money off their own likeness. Moreover, Littlefield 17 furthers that the way to end the exploitation of athletes is to pay them for their labor. The impact is poverty. With the majority of athletes coming from poverty, they also tend to remain that way throughout their college careers. Indeed, as Bartholomew 19 finds, 82% of athletes who live on campus and 90% of athletes who live off campus with full athletic scholarships live below the federal poverty line. With the overwhelming majority of college athletes living in poverty, they cannot get themselves out of it. As Alphabet 22 claims, college athletes have only about 2 hours remaining a single day for homework, eating, and part-time work. Henceforth, by giving athletes the money they rightfully deserve in a pro world, they are able to stop continuously being exploited and get themselves out of poverty. Contentious 2 is racial inequality. The current system of amateurism, as NBER 20 finds, that black players that account for nearly half the football and basketball players, but only 11% of players in money-losing sports. As Husseini 20 reports, athletes are disproportionately black are the biggest revenue-generating sports, football and basketball. This dynamic also invokes America's horrific history of unpaid slave labor. It's hard to ignore the racist undertones when the financial benefit to the institutions is based on the unpaid work of young black men. This works in the system by, as Garwaith 20 reports, that the revenue appears to flow from the participants in sports which athletes are disproportionately black to students where athletes are more likely to be white. Even as Balmeo 20 claims, federal lawmakers have taken notice of the growing inequalities in college sports. Senator Chris Murphy said, "These are largely African-American players that are being kept poor in order to enrich white athletic directors, coaches, and sports companies. But there's a free market element to this discussion. There is no other marketplace in the country in which these people providing the labor should be compensated millions of dollars, but instead are being given no pay." As Klein 23 discovers, not paying college athletes amplifies racial inequalities. Indeed, UN 19 finds that by labeling their players as students rather than workers, it gets away with not paying them, although the NCAA blatantly exploits black male athletes. It abuses black students, squeezing revenue out of them, defending their humanity with the student-athlete excuse. Moreover, Singer 21 reports that when black athletes achieve success and generate tremendous value despite the obstacles placed in their way, the same universities that profit from their label them as amateurs to avoid paying them for their fair wage share. Such self-serving semantics are common practice for the NCAA, which also manufactures the term student-athlete to avoid paying workers compensation for sports-related injuries in the aftermath of the University of Denver versus Nemeth decision. The impact is graduation rates. Furthermore, half of the revenue-producing athletes don't graduate, with half of the revenue-producing athletes are black. Currently, Harper 18 finds, however, these rates are far from impressive when broken down by race. Across all athletic divisions, white athletes have graduation rates that, on average, are at least 17 percentage points higher than black student athletes. Furthermore, Murdoch 23, the major reason that black students drop out of college is money. By paying these athletes, they are no longer subject to the obvious racial inequalities. They are also more likely to graduate with financial burdens. Thus, we affirm the resolution and strongly encourage you to do so.
Okay, you were 22 seconds over. You didn't look at the camera or the judge. And okay, go on.
Why like that is not acceptable? 22 seconds over is a lot.
Work on it.
You cannot, right? I think you have a timer there.
Are you ready for cross?
Yeah. So since I was the first speaker, can I get a first question?
Yep.
Okay, so you say that athletes should be allowed to make money off their own likeliness, right? In the case you say that. But isn't that already happening with NIL deals?
Yes, they are making money off NIL deals.
So why is this necessary?
Because they're not making enough money off
You
NIL
just said they're
deals.
making. Okay, but the average NIL deal is the value of the average NIL deal is $1,815. So
So you're
clearly
saying
they
that's enough money to get them out of poverty?
I'm saying that they're already being paid a sufficient amount, and most athletes don't have just one NIL deal; they have multiple. And with the average one being $1,815, that's more than enough.
So do you have a statistic of how much these student athletes are making from NIL? Like,
I can probably find one.
can you show me one? Because you're saying you have multiple NIL deals and each are making them $1,800. So how much is the average student making in NIL deals, and is it enough to get them out of poverty?
Okay, my partner will cover that in the rebuttal. Do you have a question?
Yes, I have a question. You stated that in your impact for amateurism that these smaller schools will be shutting down.
Yep.
How these smaller schools will be shutting down if these programs, only these programs, these D2 programs are being shut down?
Okay, so it's cause and effect, right? So these programs can't pay money, right? Can't pay for, so these sports programs will get shut down. We both agree with that, right? You conceded that.
No,
You literally said the programs will shut down.
if
without the
in
colleges.
your case these sports programs are getting shut down, how does this impact of smaller schools getting shut down happening?
Okay, so the sports programs will get shut down because they don't have the funds to pay the student athletes, right?
Yeah, so if that occurs,
Okay.
how does
So then, okay, sports generate a lot of money for colleges, right? They bring in a lot of money that help the colleges thrive. If the colleges aren't making money from the sports, which no longer exist, they won't be able to pay for their professors and everything.
So you
Maybe
just
they'll
stated
shut
that these schools are getting a lot of money from sports,
They're making a good amount, yes.
but in your
But
first
they're
contention,
being used for facilities, coaches, and all of that. They're being used to sustain these colleges. But if these sports are gone, then there's no money for the colleges, meaning the colleges will shut down. It's just simple cause
if
and
you
effect.
you just stated that this money is being used for coaches and facilities,
Yep.
which do not directly keep these schools afloat.
But it's also
So
going to the colleges. Some of it
do you
goes.
have a statistic of how much money generated by these sports are going to keep these colleges afloat?
I can find it.
Do you have another question?
Yeah. So how do you plan on paying for all of the student athletes? For all of the student athletes this year?
There's, as you stated before, these sports programs are making money, and this money is going to these coaches and other facilities, so this can be taken.
Okay,
That's
just to
cross, that's
answer
cross.
your previous
That's
question.
cross, that's cross.
Okay.
So before we start, do you mind if I see some cards?
Sure.
Can I please see your 95%?
Okay. That's dirty. Yeah, it's right here.
Do you mind if I scroll down?
Yeah, go.
That was 15 seconds. Alright, so I'm gonna take some prep.
Rebuttal.
Yeah.
Or for speakers.
So you still get to how much prep did you take, please?
50 seconds.
I forgot we weren't going through it.
Do you need some prep? Alright.
I'm gonna take a minute of prep.
Just need to respond.
So, an off-time roadmap, I guess. I'm gonna go over their case, and then I'm gonna go over ours, and then attack. Time starts on my first word. Structural forms of anti-blackness are enabled in almost every single established institution via school policies practicing, producing, and reproducing inequitable experiences. Black athletes are more frequently hyper-surveyed, monitored, controlled, and on their own campuses through various tools including major clustering and placement through class checkers.
Look at me, look at the camera and talk.
Than their non-black counterparts. Shoot. I tabbed
That's
it.
fine, keep going.
Than their non-black counterparts, largely because athletic personnel tend to push them towards their athletic roles at the expense of their academic goals and obligations. Black male athletes' the black male athletes' 6-year graduation rate is 59%, compared to 69% for athletes overall. According to 2019 NCAA data, even when it comes to physical safety and a basic sense of acceptance and belonging within their communities, black men and women who play for Division I teams continue to protest hostile campus and racial climates, including anti-black violence. This proves that employment to these employees will prove non-unique, as it will not solve the problem of racism and the effect that the students are facing on these campuses. Judge, they said that the only way college athletes will be able to survive is from employment, but our source says that college athletes actually make some college athletes actually make an average of $4,000 from NIL deals per year, meaning that this money will actually go to these students, greatly aiding them and proving that employment is not the only way to make these students' lives better and their financial burdens better. Also, we have data that shows that in Division I schools, $14,000 are actually put into scholarships for these student athletes, meaning that these student athletes actually have $14,000 worth of scholarships aiding them in their studies, in their college journeys. Meaning that employment we are in a status quo world. Employment is not aiding these students, and we've said in our case that employment will actually harm 95% of student athletes across the United States. And we already have right here. It shows that all these students in the United States from colleges, they actually already have scholarships, aiding their school in their journeys in their academic careers. This is proving that employment does not prove any solvency to these problems. Furthering this, my opponent asked my partner about a stat of how much money was generated from sports going to the colleges themselves. According to Morons and Analytics, $682 million generated from sports goes to these schools. To answer their question, that my partner said that I would answer in my rebuttal. Furthermore, we're stating that our impact greatly outweighs, as this will affect 95% of student athletes across the United States. This is many student athletes and will crumble their careers. Also, we've stated in our case that the cause of these student athletes wanting more money, needing more money, will actually cause these lower budgeted schools, these Division II and lower schools, to actually shut down, because these athletic departments are actually major parts of these schools themselves, and without them, these schools will fall apart and crumble, meaning that if given employment to these student athletes, a mere 5% of student athletes will actually gain from this, and it will crush student athletes, no, not just student athletes, but colleges throughout the United States. This is why I believe that you should vote for neg. Thank you, Judge.
Hey, Harsh.
Yeah?
So the fact that you are putting your laptop down,
Yeah.
you're always going to look down, right?
Okay.
Lift it up.
Yeah.
Lift it up and hold something in hand, because your other hand was fidgeting all over your shirt.
I'm really fidgety.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hold a pen or something. I don't know what
Now,
else.
just hold your laptop.
Yeah,
That-
hold the laptop, that'll
that-
keep your hand
that
in.
keeps your way and all the things.
Okay.
And the fact that you're looking here, you'll always look in front, right?
Okay.
It might take a couple seconds.
Okay.
Ready? So Judge ready? Or my opponents ready? Judge, we strongly encourage an affirmative ballot, and here's why. So, going down their first contention is cutting programs. So, they tell you that colleges don't have enough money to pay for this programs. However, in 2019, colleges made $15.8 billion off of the college athletics programs. And the thing with this is, if you factor in how much you have to pay each athlete, that's about $7 billion. That is obviously enough to cover this. And going to their argument that colleges are using this money to keep afloat, $682 million plus the $7 billion it takes to pay athletes is still less than the $15.8 billion generated by the college programs, or by the college athletics programs. Now, First, now their also argument is on the 95%. However, let's talk about this stat. Firstly, it's by the NCAA. Their own head warns this. Obviously, this is going to be a biased source that obviously is going to exaggerate the problem so that they don't have to pay their athletes. You can't take the source coming from the people who don't want to pay, because obviously they're going to be like, oh, 95% of them are going to be gone. But when you really take the math that their card shows, it shows 95% of colleges are paying X amount of money and losing it in sports. So that means that this is a big assumption that 95%, all of these colleges are going to cut all their sports programs, which is not going to happen. Not every single one of these sports programs is going to be cut. Therefore, this entire impact is not going to happen. Secondly, we already tell you there's enough money, and therefore they're weighing on 95% will be gone, so it only affects 5%, is not true, because we're affecting 100% of people in college athletes. Now, let's talk about their second contention. Firstly, it's not unique. Currently, because of NIL deals, people are already going to the big D1 and D2 schools because they obviously want bigger NIL deals. Furthering this, their argument is D2 schools will shut down. However, this is not at all going to happen, because the way college sports works is D1 schools compete amongst other D1 schools, and D2 schools compete against other D2 schools. Therefore, D2 is not going to be competing against D1. Therefore, it's not going to close down because they can't compete, because they're not competing. Now, let's talk about their rebuttal. So their first thing is they run a card saying a bunch of stats on how black student athletes are not being treated equally. This just feeds into our point. They say 59% of black college athletes are graduating. And they say this is less than white. This is what we're saying. We're saying that this will solve the problem. As we tell you, NCAA doesn't pay these black athletes that generate so much revenue for them as a way to further this racial inequalities going on. They say we're not proving solvency, but we are. They're just not really looking into the stats of this. Now, their second thing is that people make $4,000 on NIL deals. This is not enough to get them out of poverty and for them to live. $4,000 compared to the poverty line where they could be making or more is not enough, right? Because if we're saying, and they go on scholarship saying $14,000 is already going to scholarship, we tell you, even with a full scholarship, athletes, 90% of them living off campus, 82% of them living on campus are still in poverty. What are these scholarships doing? Nothing. Now, let's talk about how they're saying employment is not solvency for both of our contentions. Firstly, our first contention remains untouched by their rebuttal. They don't tell you anything about how colleges are not. Sorry, I forgot the time, so I'm just kind of. Anyway, they're not telling you anything about how colleges actually do have the money, so their entire impacts are just not going to happen. They're going off this big assumption that all colleges are going to shut down all their programs. That's not going to happen, Judge. These colleges have the money. They're just not actually giving you the statistics that tell you this. Therefore, we strongly encourage an affirmative ballot. What did they say? Are you guys taking prop for cross?
No.
Alright. So do you have the first question?
Yeah. Okay, so do you agree that college athletes, they're willing to go to places where they get more money? You're saying that college athletes don't have enough money, yes?
Yeah.
So they want more money?
Yeah.
Okay, so what's denying that? These larger schools with more income, what's stopping them from buying these college athletes out?
Okay,
In
but the
turn,
thing is,
destroying these lower income, these lower budget,
but the thing is, these lower budget things tend to be D3 and D2 schools, correct?
Yes.
And these D2 and D3 schools, they might be getting athletes with less ability to play and less talent, but they're competing against the same schools with the same budgets and the same ability to recruit the same athletes. They're not competing against the D1 schools with the big things. So it's not exactly monopolization, because the college system has already created it such that these lower budgeted schools with the lower budget athletics programs are not competing against the big ones like University of Alabama. Now, can I have a question?
Wait, I just want to add on to the thing. If employment is given to these student athletes, wouldn't there be less student athletes? Because these teams, they would not want to spend as much money as they do because they want to save their money. Yes.
But if they have the money to do it, then why wouldn't they?
How did you said that there's 15.8 billion?
Yeah.
In the same
We're saying 2019.
2019. Yes.
Yeah, that's
okay.
important.
Okay. Can I see your card after we're done?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think,
yeah.
so I have a question actually. So in your rebuttal, you're basically going on about how there's structures in place to solve for racial inequality, correct? How they're getting some stuff extra, correct?
No, we never said that. I said that.
Can you
it's
read your card?
Racial.
That's just the first part,
Okay. Yeah.
like the first sentence of it.
Structural forms of anti-blackness are embedded in almost every established institution via school policies and practices.
So is that saying there's racial inequality, or is that saying there's solving for racial inequality?
There's racial inequality
So
in every single student.
That's what we're saying. That's actually helping our case, because what we're saying is racial inequality is happening right now, and the NCAA is using the student-athlete name and amateur name to actually further this problem. But by paying them their fair wages, they're not taking all this money and giving it to these rich white guys. They're giving it to the people who made the money, therefore decreasing the racial inequality among the college athletes.
We're saying that these student athletes, they're not getting these anti-blacknesses from these teachers and whatnot. We're saying that this anti-blackness is on their own campus.
Yeah, from their own peers, like other athletes. Like, okay, I have a question for you.
Okay.
So, don't you agree someone from a low-income family, like let's say they're in the Bronx, they're living in right? Are they going to really have access to golf? To play, learning the right skills for golf? No. They're going to have access to soccer maybe, or football, where more people play them, correct? So they're going to get better at those sports rather than non-revenue generating sports, correct?
Okay, yes.
So that means that these people have access to these sports, or they're going to be playing these sports, correct?
Yes.
And these rich white people, they're going to be playing sports that they have access to, like golf, and they have access to swimming, they have more access to tennis, correct?
Yes.
So obviously, these more rich white guys are going to be playing these sports, yeah, and the other black athletes are going to not play the revenue-generating sports, and the money has to go to the rich white people. So these people are getting nothing.
Okay. Yep.
Arshit, you really need a pen in your hand.
Okay.
All right?
Yep.
And less fidgeting with the legs
Okay.
All right.
also. Do that also.
Are you guys saying Greg?
Yeah. We will take.
It's summary, right?
We'll take a minute. Actually, we'll take 5 minutes. Is my judge ready? Is my opponent ready?
Yeah.
Is my partner ready? Is my partner ready?
Yeah.
And Tom will start on the first word. Judge, in their case, my opponents state that athletes should be paid for their own likeliness, but we tell you that they already are through NIL deals. The average NIL deal ranges from $1,000 to $10,000, which clearly shows that student athletes make enough money to sustain themselves solely off NIL deals. This is also completely disregarding scholarships, with the average scholarship being $14,000. My opponents also state that colleges generate $15 billion through sports, but the fact is only 25 of the 1,100 colleges generate a profit, and most of them, over 99% actually, are actually losing money. My opponents say that you can't trust our source of 95% of athletes, but this is an extremely weak argument because they don't provide any evidence. Just because the athletes are currently living in poverty doesn't mean that they come from families in poverty back home. They state that 82% of athletes live in poverty in college, but they don't come from families in poverty. Technically, I could be considered living in poverty since I don't make enough money to be above the poverty line. We are also arguing that, so they say that the fact that D2 schools will shut down since they can't compete. They say that we are arguing that D2 schools will shut down because they don't have enough money to compete with the bigger D1 schools. However, that is not what we're arguing at all. In fact, we are arguing that D2 schools will shut down since they don't have enough money to pay for the student athletes. They cannot, so they're already they're already losing money. They're not making a profit, and they don't have the money to sustain these student athletes, meaning they will have to shut down if this bill were passed. My opponents also say that it is unfair that black athletes are subsidizing sports played by a whiter community, but they provide no solvency. Do they want the sports played by the richer, whiter community to shut down, because the fact is, these sports still need to be around, right? We can't just cut them. That's even more unfair than the black athletes having to subsidize the whiter sports. We can't just cut sports because they're not generating a profit. It's simply unfeasible. It's destroying millions of lives. These richer, whiter athletes will lose all the opportunities in their sport. And yeah, so we're saying that they don't provide any solvency because we simply just can't cut the sports. And they need to be subsidized. They need the help. Thus, we vote for a neg ballot. Thank you.
Before we go, do you mind if I check something? Because I think I misunderstood a card you had. I just want to clarify one for summary. So you said that D2 schools don't have enough money to be able to pay all their athletes, correct?
Because we're saying that most of them are losing money, yes.
So can I see the one that specifically talks about your D2 schools?
We don't have one that specifically talks about D2 schools.
You talked about D2 schools, that was your impact on your second contention. Can I see that, please?
What do you want to see? Okay, you can come here. What did you want to see? This is our case.
Okay, so
See whatever you want to see.
I'll start preface until I find the card I'm looking for.
Alright.
D2 schools will disappear because they cannot complete the money that bigger Division 1 schools have. Alright, that was 5 seconds.
Okay, you guys
No,
ready?
fix that. We have card.
Oh, okay.
So basically it is their, like, they changed it, but then we have to change it back because that is what the case is. So basically it's like, focus on the, there's a it is the 98%. So we got give a minute.
Yes.
So first I'm gonna respond to their case, frontline our case, and then if there's time. So you stated to our case that we do not state that these families come from poverty, but as we stated in our case, we have a card showing that 86% of these families, 86% of these student athletes come from families in poverty. So we have stated that in our case. Additionally, you guys stated that 95% of these programs will be cut, but as we stated, this source comes with plenty of bias as it comes from these people that want them to be cut if these students are being paid. Additionally, these programs are generating $15.8 billion pre-COVID, and so they have enough money to cover this $7 billion, so there's no need to cut these programs. Additionally, we have stated that these people are already going to bigger schools for this NIL deal. So this impact is completely non-unique, and this impact should be negated as these people are already going to these bigger schools for these NIL deals. And as we stated, these D2 schools will not close as they're competing with other D2 schools. So there's no need for these D2 schools to be closed as they have the same facilities and are having the same recruitment as these other D2 schools. So there's no need for them to close. So this impact should completely be negated. Additionally, you guys stated that these athletic departments are really big and are keeping these schools afloat. But that completely contradicts your case as you're saying that they're lacking this money to pay these students. So that should be completely negated. Additionally, you changed your link to your second impact. You stated that it's not because of competition, but due to a lack of money. But before you stated that it was because there's too much competition from these bigger schools. So you completely changed your link, and their link to their impact should completely be negated from what I've stated before. On to our case, they stated that these schools are losing money, but they create $15.8 billion. They're generating this money, and this $15.8 billion is way more than enough to cover this $7 billion. Additionally, they restated how NIL deals are generating $1,000 to $4,000, but this is not enough for these students to get them out of poverty. And this $14,000 in scholarships are currently happening and are not helping these students getting them out of poverty. And they say that these richer sports they shouldn't be cut and they're impacting millions of lives, but they're not impacting a million lives. And these richer sports can be cut because these students are affluent and have the money, and these black students need this. And these black students are currently being exploited, and the money would be going to the people that deserve them, and giving this money to the black athletes would help them the most. Additionally, back to their $4,000 in NIL, this is not enough to get them out of poverty, and this $4,000 in NIL will not help get these students out of poverty, and these scholarships exist but aren't helping them. To weigh, we impact 86% of these college athletes, and 86% of them are in poverty and are part of the impact, and 86% of these collegiate athletes are being impacted, and we impact a lot, all of the student athletes, as many of these student athletes are in poverty, and these black student athletes are being greatly impacted. Thus, we urge an affirmative ballot.
Are you guys ready for Grand Cross?
Yeah.
Do you guys want first question?
Yeah, I do. So I look at your card, right? So it said that they generate you said that they generate 15.8 billion. You do realize that this 15.8 billion is just generated, the money is still going back to the NCAA to spend and improve your card, looking at your card, it says that 44% of the cash flows to the Division I athletic departments to improve them.
Okay, but
This means that the money that you're saying that the $15.8 billion, that's not, that's more
it's
than
final
enough money.
focus, you can't bring this up, but secondly, to respond to that actual point, what we're saying is there's $15.8 billion and they're spending on these lavish facilities, they're spending it on so much that they don't need to spend it on, rather than spending it on what's important, the athletes that actually make the $15.8 billion.
Okay.
Okay, can we have a question now?
Yeah.
So in your summary, you basically say that, okay, so you change your link completely.
Can you explain
So,
what you're...
your original argument was rich schools benefit more because they're going to be able to get the better athletes, correct?
Yes.
Then you're like, D2 schools won't be able to compete with these D1 schools
When did we say that?
in your case, and then I just checked your card.
Okay.
So then, how come how is it now a lack of money, and because these Division II schools won't be able to pay, rather than competition, which is what your partner said in summary?
Division II and Division I is not the athletic ability, it's actually the
It's the
size of the
colleges.
schools. The
But
size
like,
of
if
the colleges
Division I
themselves.
schools generate more money, they're going to get better athletes, but they're going to be competing against other Division I schools that generate more money and get the same kind of athletes. They're not competing against Division III schools that generate less money and get
That
worse
would mean
athletes.
that these Division III and Division II schools would be shut down because
No,
it's not
they're
like...
not, but they're
because
competing
they would-
against people of their same level. You're not going to put a college student
No, but
competing
Division-
with a 5-year-old soccer player.
Division
That's because
I.
they're different divisions.
Yes, but Division I and Division II were not split on the ability to play their athletic ability. It's been on the size of schools themselves.
Yeah, so the smaller schools are going to compete against other smaller schools with the same abilities.
Smaller schools will have the ability to compete against larger schools.
Why?
An example of this is Westboro. Westboro plays towns.
But this is not college divisions. University of Alabama is not going to compete against like a local college right here, right?
Okay, yes.
That's correct, right?
Yes.
Because this college will obviously earn less money than the University of Alabama's athletic programs, correct?
Yes.
So then, why they're not going to lose money? Because even if they're getting worse athletes, they're going to be getting this athletes that other colleges in their division will be getting. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes.
All right.
Okay. Do you have any other questions?
No. It's your turn, but I can ask another one if you like.
Do you have a question?
No.
Okay, yeah. You're,
All right.
Wait, that's
Oh, that's crosses over.
Okay. You guys ready for summary? Or final focus?
We'll take
The last 30 seconds. Okay, time starts on my first word. As I stated in cross, when looking at their card, the $15.8 billion are not net profit, or not profit. It's actually the generated amount of money that the NCAA has made. This means that the NCAA does not actually have the money to pay these black athletes, to pay these college athletes. Meaning that these college athletes, the employment can be disregarded as they have not proven where the money would come from. They keep bringing up the fact that colleges are generating $15 billion, but they still fail to recognize that only 0.2% of college athletes generate a profit. 99.8% of college athletes are actually losing money, which completely proves that colleges simply do not have the money to pay for student athletes. Hence our argument that sports programs will get cut if affirmative action were to be taken, proves that our argument that these athletes will lose their passions, their jobs. These smaller schools will be shut down if this affirmative action is taken, which leads to 95% of athletes being displaced and cut. My opponents were not able to respond at all to. Furthermore, we greatly outweigh, because these 95% of student athletes are from the entire world. They're arguing about these a mere 5% of athletes, the mere 5% of Division I athletes, and also these low-income black athletes. But giving these students employment will not give them the ability to raise out of poverty. This will only aid them a little bit, proving that there's no solvency to this at all, meaning that our entire case wins by magnitude and in time frame. Thank you.
We're gonna
Still
take,
a lot of time though.
we have about a minute left of our meeting.
They said
A minute.
95%. It's only an NCAA.
It's okay, we're gonna take the rest of our prep.
Okay.
That's about a minute. Is my partner ready? Is my judge ready? Judge, we strongly encourage an affirmative ballot, and here's why. Firstly, going down our case, both of our contentions flow through. Our first contention tells you that poverty is a big problem among college athletes, even with the full scholarships and even with so many NIL deals that they talk about. Even with all this, 82% living on campus and 90% of those living off campus are still in poverty. So currently status quo is not solving for anything. However, paying them, paying people actually gets them out of poverty. Because poverty is when people don't have money, so when you get money, you're out of poverty, especially when you're getting paid above the poverty line. Now let's talk about our second contention on racial inequality. They say we don't prove solvency, but they themselves give you a bunch of problems of how racial inequality right now is a big problem and we need to solve it. We're telling you that currently the NCAA doesn't pay these athletes by using the name student athlete and amateurs to actually feed off these black student athletes and exploit them. Therefore, when weighing, our case actually flows through. Now let's talk about their case. Their first contention, we tell you $15.8 billion is being generated by college athletics. However, they give you some stats on 44%. That's all new information, Judge. You can't take that into account in final focus. Secondly, let's talk about how we tell you their 95% stat is by the NCAA head. Of course, it's going to be exaggerated, but because it's by a biased source, they tell you it's a weak argument, but they don't actually further this, so therefore it actually flows through. Now, their second argument, they concede it in cross. They themselves say, yeah, that makes sense when we tell you that D2 and D3 schools are not going to be competing against bigger D1 schools. Therefore, that impact doesn't do it. So now when weighing, they don't have impacts because firstly, the first impact's not going to happen. Secondly, the second impact's not going to happen. Therefore, when weighing, there's only two impacts that flow through, the poverty impact and the racial inequality impact. So, thus we encourage an affirmative ballot.
Okay. I thought like you guys started very well at the beginning, but somehow you guys lost it, right? Like nobody won or lost, like just gonna be the feedback. What Suhavi said is correct in our final focus. You got in some new evidence right there, in the 40% thing, right? And also in your summary, Avi, you said like once you change from 1 to 4,000 to 1 to 10,000.
No, it was 1 to 10,000. I never brought.
You said average 4,000.
Average 4,000.
He did say that.
Yeah, but I said
10,000.
Okay, that's okay, that's a final point, right? But like your first speaking was really good when I stood there and listened, like it was very coherent. But when it came to again your summary, I didn't feel the same.
Yeah.
At least it's straight, right?
Do you agree on that?
No, I do because
Yeah.
I'm reading.
Yeah, I thought like you were on a very good start when I came in, right? Harsh, like you guys need to prepare your blocks very well. Like it has to be really clear, right? The blocks are the ones that really make a difference, right? In rebuttal, like that's the only I don't see, like as I said like last time also, take few arguments and just counter those. right, in the best way possible, right? Just not don't go over all over, like, that's, I didn't feel that in that year. And the final focus, you really bunker. It's all over the place. I didn't get anything what you're arguing against. But nothing against Suhavi, you are really excellent. I'm telling you. Keep practicing it. You really, that, like, again, it's an example, but I hope you practiced at home or something like that, but like that one. And one thing, you fidgeted a bit more, like a bit less this time, but you're good. Like I think, I don't know, you got to look up. Like that's the only thing that you need to really work on. But like case-wise, you guys did very well. I think that's, and like honestly, I thought like the Avi was really a quantum leap from last time to this one. But somehow you got complacent maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, I think you're on an upward trajectory. Like you guys are doing awesome. I can see that. Like minor points, just work on that. So one thing, what I do, like the way I learn, at least, I like. Do you guys know what blocks are?
Yeah.
Right? Everybody knows it, right? So that's the most important one, and final focus is the most important one. You can, you can have a dual story in the middle, but like those are the two ones that really people focus on. And look at debatedrills.com. That's where I go like to learn. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah, but you guys are doing awesome at least.